everybody? This is Ron Sparkman from Opportunity U, and today we have another great interview for you. We're going to be speaking with Kristoffer Liland from Ripple Aerospace. A very interesting idea based on the sea launch concept, and it's really kind of interesting. And Chris talks about it best, so we'll have him fill us in on the details. So, Chris, how you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you?
Man, we're glad to have you on. And Chris and I actually met a few years ago at the Mars Society convention, and not just him, but the majority of his team, a very large part of his team, and we've all become very good friends, and we all kind of work together in some stuff. And but Chris, you guys have had really an amazing year with Ripple, and I know you guys have to be stoked about that.
Oh, yeah, it's been crazy. It's overwhelming at times, but definitely worth it. I
don't think a week goes by that I don't see another news article in a language that I don't speak talking about all the things you guys are all the things you guys are accomplishing. So one, man, congratulations on all your success, and we will certainly get into that. But first up, kind of what inspired you when you were young to kind of follow this career in space?
That is a very good question. I think science or popular science in any way has been something close to my heart since I was a small child. I was talking to my mom when I was like 9 years old about how humans were going to do all these kind of weird things on the moon and on Mars, and I was talking my parents' head off about what humans were going to do in the future. And then here we are, and humans are not anywhere near as far as I had talked about when as a young child. And then when I it was in my final 2 years of high school, I was reading Robert Zubrin. Robert Zubrin talked about, it was an article by him, which was taken out of The Case for Mars, which is a book I later bought and read. And that kind of inspired me that humans really need to go into space in a big way. We need to start colonies and other things. So that helped me give me some direction on where I was going in life, even though it took another 7 years before I founded Ripple. 8 years, actually.
That's awesome. And so that was kind of the beginning for you, and you kind of knew it. And then somehow all of this team came together. So how did you end up meeting the other guys on Ripple, and how did that kind of start coalescing to where you're saying, hey, you know what, we got something here, let's kind of put this together and see what we can do?
That's a long journey.
Well, as short as you can.
All right. In 2013, I joined this Facebook group called the Mars Settlement Research Organization. It was founded by this Australian guy called Sean Moss. I got my daughter in the back here yelling for something.
That's okay, man. Nothing wrong with being a dad and also, going to space. I mean, we're doing it for the kids, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, fortunately, I have a girlfriend who's very helpful. Yeah, I started meeting with the people who are now my founding team. I met all of them through this group on Facebook. We all shared this common passion about Mars as one of the future homes for humanity, and through that we decided, like in 2014, we were all going to try and go to the Mars Society convention in Houston. And me and Nick Larkham and Daniel Katita, my formal co-founders, as such, we met for the first time at Rocket Park outside Houston. We met beside the large Apollo vehicle that sits there. That was never flown. This was the first time we met in person, the three of us. We didn't formally kind of become a founding team at the time because they were both involved in their own entrepreneurial ventures. But I had started Ripple in a small fashion, like half a year earlier. And I was working on the ideas, and we were sparring together on these ideas for the next year. By the next time there was a Mars Society convention, when we met you in 2015, we had formally joined together for this company because we were actually making some headway. We were doing exciting things, and they started to find that this was the way to go for all of our dreams collectively to become real as such. So that's the shortest version I can give you, I think.
The best part is that if you've never seen the team together, you would never think that this group of people would end up together. You know, you were entirely different from Daniel, who's different from Nick, who's different from Andrew. You know, that's just part of the team that I've met, and everybody is completely different. But there is certainly a brotherhood in that dream that you can tell that you guys have kind of put together, and it's really cool. And you guys all have your individuality, and it's something that you put it all together. And you know, obviously, you guys are seeing some great success from it. And so Ripple, not just another aerospace company, firmly based on the sea launch idea. Not many people have heard of this. NASA had it a long time ago, shelved it, moved on with it. But you guys have seen something in it that made it viable for you, and will also make it viable for other people. It seems it's something that's really working. So what made you decide to go that route of sea launches? And you know, do you know something others don't know? Like, you know, what is it that you guys figured out that you said, hey, this is the road we need to go down?
So those are a lot of questions at once. Why I initially saw the opportunity is because Norway, where I come from, is in this phase of transition. Norway has for almost half a century now been entirely, or not entirely dependent upon, but very engrossed in the oil that we produce in the northern seas, in our oil fields around those parts. Like, my father has been working in oil for 30 years. But we see now that for the last 3 years, almost around 40,000 jobs were lost in a very short period of time, which is a massive blast to this industry, which is the largest employer in Norway. And so there were a few things that I wanted to introduce. Was one, an alternative to the oil, both because oil will not last forever, and second, because oil is a very bad industry, and in my opinion, something that eventually will need to stop for at least 95 to 99% of what that business is doing will become either useless or have to become useless.
I'll certainly agree with you on that one. I think a lot of people would.
So that was one of my initial ideas. I wanted to do something that could be an alternative to oil. But then at the same time, I wanted to retain all of that knowledge. I'm not sure if you, when I started this idea, I was studying something called Innovation and Launch Management. It's a master's degree at the local university here. And we learned about something called implicit and explicit knowledge. And implicit knowledge is something that a group of workers will learn over time in a company or in an industry. But if you say when you move a company offshore, all of that implicit knowledge is lost. If an industry dies and there's nothing to replace it, all of that implicit knowledge built up over half a century would be lost. So one of my goals in this particular, in not necessarily one of my goals, but one of the things that inspired me to this idea was knowledge retention. Keeping knowledge alive, and knowledge that's useful in Norway, and that keeps Norway in the top of the maritime field. Norway is a maritime nation. We build the best ships in the world. We build the highest oil technology in the world. My city exports 85% of all oil and gas drilling supplies for the entire planet.
And see, that's I don't think I've ever known that Norway had anything to do with oil whatsoever. This is completely news to me. When you hear and whenever you hear oil in the United States, it is all directed towards either the Middle East or our own. You know, where we're drilling and what we're dealing with our pipelines and stuff and so forth. But yeah, I don't think I've ever heard Norway even in the discussion for it before. And see, that's part of it.
We're one of the largest producers in the world of oil. Certainly the largest producer in Europe, maybe except for Russia. So Norway has been largely dependent on this industry, and certainly we're seeing a recession now. We did not see a recession during the Great Depression, as it's now called, in between 2008 2010. Norway had a record-setting income during those years because the value of the dollar was so low and the price of oil was so high. So Norway became really rich on those recessions in the rest of the world.
Yeah, so it actually did benefit somebody. You don't hear a whole lot about that. So what were your best years, 2008 to 2010? Are you sure?
Yeah. So yeah, certainly oil has benefited us. It has benefited us for half a century. And now it's even the government saying that those good times that we've had from the oil, those are not going to come back. Those are done. Those are over. We're not going to have that same income again. We're not going to have those same wages again. We're not going to have those same jobs again. All that's going to be lost, either to automation or to loss of industries or electric vehicles or,
technology, the changing world. Yeah, the changing world for sure.
Yeah, so now I'm babbling. This is, where a lot of this comes from. If you allow me some time, I will also explain another concept that gave us this idea, or that made me land on this idea. Mm-hmm. It's something called national innovation systems.
Okay.
So each nation usually has, like, small nations in particular have very specific sets of knowledge that they focus on. So a small nation will get good on very few things. Norway got really good on a few things: resource extraction and maritime technologies and marine technologies. Those are our top three fields, and where we get the most of our money.
Yeah.
Like probably half of the world's fish and 85% of the world's oil technology comes from here.
Yeah.
We make the highest technologies, the most advanced state-of-the-art oil technology. And we also refine the highest grade materials in the world. Like, my city produces the cleanest nickel in the world. There's no cleaner nickel in any city or refinery in the entire planet.
Interesting.
So resource extraction, resource refining, all those things are we're really good at. And while in the United States you have more like regional innovation systems, we also have regional innovation systems. Like, regions of Norway are really good at specific subsets of this national system. But the US can afford having a wide range of industries, whereas a small country like Norway can only afford to have few. We have to be the best at something to be competitive in the larger scope of things. So the national innovation system kind of made me focus on, we have to do something that's maritime. It has to be tied in with those specific segments of Norway. Like, how can we do that? And that, when I became a member of this Facebook group, I came across the Sea Dragon.
Yeah,
Sea Dragon,
which we have hanging in the Space Foundation. We have one of the.
Yeah. So the Sea Dragon kind of was the final piece of those pieces in a puzzle. It completed everything. It became this eureka moment when I managed to put all these things together in January 2014. And while the core idea and the design idea since then changed a lot for the next 18 months before it started landing on something that looks like what we're doing today.
Mm-hmm.
The eureka moment is still something I remember those days. I remember those talks we had. Those feelings that came about when it's like, fuck, this is what we've been looking for so long. I've spent 6 years looking for this.
It's the revelation that you know what you found, and sometimes it comes, in the middle of nothing, like out of nowhere. Here's your answer, and you've waited for it. You've tried everything you can to kind of, to force it to happen, and then out of nowhere it smacks you in the face.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how it started. I mean, we worked on. I have notes going back to 2009, 2010, where I was writing on ideas that are almost basically what Mars One became, like Mars One or similar organizations to Mars One, because I wanted Mars colonization to be this big deal thing.
I think we all
in
do.
The end, yeah. But in the end, the focus became smaller and smaller and smaller, and on something that was more tangible, something that we could work on, something that was a piece of that larger puzzle of an entire industrial spectrum that you need to do a Mars colonization project like that. So we keyed in on being a cargo company primarily. We like to call ourselves a shipping company in space. Much using our maritime, lingo
Norwegian
and
traditions and stuff. Yeah. That's great.
And for that reason, we've also used Old Norse names or branding of our Sea Serpent rocket, as our main rocket is called. The main concept is named after an Old Norse concept called the Midgard worm, or the Midgard worm, or the world serpent in some cases. I might also go to another legend or Ouroboros, but not related. The world serpent surrounded the flat disk Earth in Viking mythology. It surrounded the Earth and prevented the oceans from falling into space, or into the great nothing, the great void. And it's kind of like this poetic idea of being that serpent, being able to tow the distance between space and Earth.
There's not a lot of people putting that much deep thought into what it is their brand is representing, especially when they're going to space. I mean, we've got some cool ones, but I don't really know. I've never heard an interesting story about what the Dragon capsule is. Just, it's a cool name. It's SpaceX Dragon. It's the Red Dragon. Yeah. Okay, I'm down. That sounds cool.
Yeah, the Falcon is reportedly named after the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, well, that makes sense. He loves his sci-fi. Musk certainly loves his sci-fi. Well, and it sounds like you guys have got so much going, like so much with it and behind it. What are the major advantages of sea launch compared to? Are there major advantages to sea launch? What are they compared to other forms?
Well, let me begin to first. I'm going to make clarification. Sea launch. A lot of people, when they hear that word, they think of Sea Launch Corporation. The Sea Launch Corporation is, or rather was, at least for now, it's in limbo. A company that was formed between a Norwegian company called Kvaerner, and then Boeing, and a Russian and Ukrainian organization. Together they formed to build reconstruct a massive barge from an old oil platform. I think it's called the Olympus. And they used that for 14 years. They launched Zenit rockets off of that platform. However, this entire project, in terms of the reconstruction phase and the building of support vessels and everything, cost around $1 billion, which is a lot of money. And certainly no startup will ever afford that kind of money. And our idea, on the other hand, is a bit more simple. We don't want to build any new launch pad. We don't want to build any launch platform. We don't want to. We're not going to be fixed to any land-based location or any floating location on the water. Sea launch has its drawbacks in that it's still not scalable, because if you're going to build a bigger rocket, you've got to build a bigger launch pad. And even though sea launch has the flexibility of our system differentiates by being able to put directly in the water. We're going the route of the Sea Dragon and multiple other projects that took place over the last 55 years, with some of our own new ideas and new systems. Like the ballast system is completely designed ground up. We're using some new innovations in the rocket engine. We're using an aerospike engine, which to some listeners might be a very interesting innovation, because it's not necessarily new. It's just not been used in space before, not been commercialized.
Okay.
So a lot of the technologies, except for our ballast system, aren't necessarily new, but they haven't been commercialized. They've been researched extensively in a very conservative industry. There has been research on the side that have proved beyond the shadow of a doubt that these technologies work, and that's very interesting to us. And I think in terms of a lot of startups, a lot of companies, it's a matter of timing, because people started streaming services like Netflix around the .com bubble, but there were nobody who had the internet services to be able to use something like that at the time.
Yeah, we were all getting DVDs to begin with, but then as everything improved, then all of a sudden, and now it's all streaming, and everybody's doing streaming. They've almost they've crippled cable in comparison. You can use Netflix, Hulu, and Sling together, and those three together are like $40, and you're not going to come anywhere near what you're paying for cable anymore.
No, it would be crazy. I mean, looking at some of the prices, I think if you want cable in Norway with, like, I don't know, a basic pack of 30 channels, maybe you're paying $150.
That's crazy.
That is ridiculous. What you get with Netflix and all these other ones, and just these small packets that you buy, Netflix, Hulu, whatever, each one, you get so much content. It's just impossible to go through it all.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay, so obviously you guys are going with sea launch, and there's really a lot that's going on there with what you guys are doing. So what is the target market for Ripple, and really where are you guys going? Who are you looking for to take advantage of what it is you're doing?
Well, we're looking at scaling through various markets over time. Given that scalability is one of the key benefits of the way we do our system. We're starting to look at CubeSats, of course, the largest, the fastest growing part of the markets. We definitely will work more closely with startups, academia, and the newer participants in the market. And over time, we plan to build the kind of integrity and what's the word? Acceptance in the market that the old players will also look to us for their launches. But we're definitely our target segment is the new space and the young firms in the industry, as well as newly added academic institutions who want to play their game with CubeSats and smaller satellites. Even though our very early market offering will be able to do medium-sized satellites as well.
That's great, and now you guys have it. And I think there's so much out there for. I don't think people realize just how much we do in space and how much we need space, and that everybody always thinks about it. It's like, oh, multi-billion-dollar satellites, or or multi-million-dollar satellites, or multi-billion-dollar telescopes are going up. Yeah, exactly. Everybody kind of thinks about that, and they don't realize that space is becoming more and more accessible. People are really kind of your basic public doesn't realize how much is really happening in space and how much their basic technologies rely on it. So it's really something. It's something different and new, and it's something you guys are working on. And also, if I'm correct too, you guys are doing it'll be a reusable rocket, right? You guys will be able to it'll launch and then land back in the ocean. You guys will be able to do it again.
Yes.
So how is that going to be advantageous for you guys and the people that want to work with Ripple? How's that going to keep the cost? Is it going to keep costs down? Things like that.
Absolutely. The cost per launch is drastically reduced once you are able to reuse the vehicle. And in the very basic terms, our vehicles will have a relaunch ability of at least 10 times for the second stage and 25 times for the first stage.
Wow.
Though we will be including non-reusable configurations so that we can reach higher altitude inclinations for our customers. But this will, of course, be a bit more expensive, as
of course. Yeah. That makes total sense. And it's something that, but it's still something that it seems like so few are reaching for. You've got Blue Origin, you've got SpaceX, and that's really it. Everybody else is just, we're going to use it. And I understand that there are certain dynamics that we just can't pass up. There's certain things that we need it for that you're going to have to do it. But it seems like people like you guys are solving that problem. And and obviously Elon Musk is a big motivation point for you guys. And I know you talked about Robert Zubrin and talking about the case to Mars, and you guys are going to be doing this work. But what is kind of the goal? I know that you obviously want to have the industry, but what's the biggest dream you have for Ripple? What do you want Ripple to be able to do? It's Elon's working with NASA to send people to the International Space Station and all these other people to get the money together. But really, for him, he wants to make us a 2-planet species. So, what is the big thing that you would like to do in the future once you say, "Hey, I'm successful. I've made it. This is what I want Ripple to be able to do"?
Well, it comes back to the phrase I used earlier. We're a shipping company in space, and that kind of goes down to the basic idea that we want to do the transportation of goods and services in space. So my ultimate potential end goal would be to do the triangle trade, as Robert Zubrin calls it in his Case for Mars book, in which you trade resources between the asteroid fields, the moon, and Mars, and do this triangle trade here. Now I know this phrase is controversial, but as the old triangle trade wasn't as positively laden as the
not the new one. Yeah, well, we want the new one to have it's got a new connotation to it, so it's okay. Yeah. We're repurposing. We're taking it back.
Yeah. So.
And so I mean, obviously you guys had a huge year, and you've got these big goals ahead of you. So tell us a little bit about what you guys did in 2016. As mentioned earlier, you guys have really been it's the press has really kind of been on you guys. There's a lot of major news sources even here in America that have really been kind of looking at you guys. So tell us a little bit about like kind of what happened in 2016 and also what you're looking forward to in 2017.
Yeah, so 2016 was a very interesting year. We like to say that we went out of stealth because for a very long time, we didn't really do any kind of connection to the press. We didn't show anyone what we were doing. We only kept it mostly within our own confines. We're still careful with the press, as press can kill you as fast as they can, applaud you.
They can build you up. Yeah. Well, hell, we've talked about doing this interview for a year. It's like, we're not quite there yet. Okay. Sounds good.
So yeah, naturally careful about over-promising and, under delivering. That's something we're trying very hard not to do.
Mars One.
Yeah. So yeah, we definitely learned from the media crisis of other firms in the last few years, and took we spent a great deal of care. What we did last year was that we came out of the bubble as such. We allowed ourselves to be contacted. We would give a few limited interviews, provide some measure of who we are. We went to our first conventions where we actually went and had exhibits. The first among those was Disrupt Space in Bremen in Germany, which this year will be in Berlin. And and we, out of nowhere, we became we became among the top 5 startups in the competition among the startups on that convention, which was very exciting because we competed among 22 startups, and among them we were in the same halls as Deep Space Industries, and then we got the pitch among the Deep Space Industries and a few other companies. And that was just really exciting that, out of nowhere we could already grasp that much attention. Of course, it was also scary because all of a sudden you're in this location where people are actually listening to what you're saying, and it's just, oh shit.
Yeah, you gotta make sure you're saying, like, am I saying the right things? Because I realized that this is what I wanted, but now that it's happening, now what do I do?
Yeah. So it was a learning curve as well, and then we got our first grant later that year from Innovation Norway. It allowed us to do market research and actually go out and get in touch with customers and clients and partners and anything. Do all kinds of networking and traveling that we needed. And it really kind of bolstered our ability to connect with the market and do actual market research. Like, are we doing what customers want? Like, are we actually meeting customers' expectations? And is there some way that customer feedback can improve our products? So those were things that we spent the fall doing, while we were also building potential partnerships with potential, industrial allies and so on and so forth. And that was just incredibly interesting work. We went to the International Astronautical Congress. We got to see Elon Musk.
I was so jealous. So jealous of that. Yeah. Especially because Daniel came here and he was part of the Space Symposium, and he met so many people. And then he got to do Space Symposium. Then you guys were there, and I was just sitting at home twiddling my thumbs.
Yeah. So it was, and then we went to Spacecom in Houston, and then we at the same time we were working on this grant that we were applicable to apply for through the Norwegian Research Council, which is and one of Norway's largest, or definitely Norway's largest organization to fund original research and development. And since I completed my master's degree, my company was then eligible for that particular grant. And we spent about 2.5 months, me and Elliot, our chief financial officer, we spent 2.5 months every day in and out, like making corrections, changing things, because we only had 5 pages that would judge us for the rest of our life.
Yeah, a perfect 5 pages. How do you do a perfect 5 pages?
Yeah, so paperwork, and finding the right way to work with the different organizations, because we noticed we applied for it earlier in the same year. We applied for it in May, and we didn't get it because we used the wrong language to apply. Not in terms of English, Norwegian. The language that we did use was a language we were used to using with another organization, Innovation Norway. Innovation Norway is very market-oriented, market concepts, commercialization, all that stuff. And then you start talking with the Research Council, which is like, what's the technology risk? How do you do the technology? How do you deal? And then and in this grant, we had to find this like middle ground because we had to talk about both the market and the technology. And it was just finding the right language and building that language over a few months. That was a huge challenge. And we fortunately had a lot of local organizations in the entrepreneurial community and the university and so on helping us out to write the best possible application that we could write. And it's an application that can be incredibly challenging. And usually if you're writing applications to the EU, usually you get someone else to do it who does it for a living.
Yeah,
and then takes like a cut out of that.
Yeah, we're gonna pay you for it, and then we're gonna get once we get it, we'll give you a paycheck, and you guys just knocked it out. What?
So given that we did this on our own, and it's a pilot program, it's the first year that they do this. So they started at May last year, and we're the second group of companies that received this grant. So we got enough money to fund a prototype development of a single, at least one reusable rocket that will be launched from Kennedy Space Center in May, June of this year. We're working with 2 American companies to make this happen, and we're developing some incredibly interesting stuff together with them. So
that's pretty huge, man. That's a big year to have your first launch coming at Kennedy this year. That's the first I heard of it, and hell, I keep up with you guys. So that's awesome. Congratulations, man.
Yeah.
That's going to be amazing. And hopefully, as long as I'm in the country and something's going on, I would love to be there. So you're gonna have to let me know for sure. So that way I can help.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And okay, so we got one last one, just a little bit for fun here. We talked a lot about Mars. You read the case for Mars. Obviously, we're at IAC and got to see Elon drop it. Talked about going back and forth. Do you want to buy the ticket like once they're available on $250,000? Just like, do you want to go to Mars?
No, I don't.
That was so easy. I thought that was going to be really in depth. It's just, okay, the Mars Society. I thought it was going to be some big inspiring answer.
I can elaborate. I personally do not want to go because I feel I can do more here for the people who want to go. Because I know there are hundreds of thousands of people who are willing, able, and capable of doing that kind of sacrifice for humanity. Whereas I want to be more of a facilitator. I want to make sure that it can happen. I will help make sure that it happens. All of those, in that respect, I feel I can do more here, at least for the foreseeable future. If I left, I felt like I would, take a leave of absence from what's important and making it easier for those who need to go. For those who must go, who have this inner ambition of this nomadic spirit that humans have and sometimes have to repress because there's nowhere to go anymore. The frontiers are gone. After the frontiers in the U.S. closed in the 1890s, we were left without a frontier where we could expand upon. Mm-hmm. And I think that's
big.
That might have caused.
God damn it.
So I want to reopen the frontier. Definitely.
You just froze up on that last maybe minute. It was after the frontier. You said that the frontier had issues, then you froze up there. So if you just want to finish from that part, then I can edit that little part out. You just once that once the in the 1890s, once that frontier closed, then I know you said something else you wanted to kind of reopen that. So if you want to finish from there, just go whenever you're ready to go, and then I will edit this part out. Oh. Chris. Hey, Chris. Chris. Hey, there you are. I think you just came back. Hey there.
Hey. My internet went down for a second there. How much of that did you get?
Yeah, I got to where you're saying the 1890s. At the end of the 1890s, blah blah blah. And if you just want to, whenever you are ready to go from there, then I can start back up again.
Yeah. All right. So. Yeah.
Actually, you know what? This one might make it easier. If you just want to go back to why you don't want to go to it, you want to go to elaborate, or actually you can just start from there because I marked it down. Never mind. I thought that I didn't. I realized that I saw where I put it. So yeah, you said the end of the 1890s and the frontier ended, and
yeah. So, the end of the frontier, the closing of the frontier in the United States in the 1890s. In my opinion, I think that caused a dangerous moment in human history, where this finality of expansion happened, and it's something. Part of my desire is to reopen this frontier. Because space is endless. We can expand forever, and once we open you know, that box, it will never again close. I'm hopefully anyway.
That's the goal.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, if in my lifetime I could see human beings touch down on another star system, that would be, and if I could help make that happen, that would, you know,
that's a big one.
That would be like the, I don't know. I have no words for what that would mean to me, but it would be insane.
Yeah. I mean, personally, that's me. Like, I can't wait to go. That's my goals. Like the next 15, 20 years, like I want to go to Mars. I want to go. I want to go there. And then after that, I love the fact that Elon changed the name of it to the ITS. So that way it's saying that, you know, it's the planetary transport system. We want to go other places. Let's figure out the radiation. Yeah. Let's figure out the radiation problem. So that way we, you know, once we get that figured out and we can actually visit Jupiter, I want to go to Europa. Like I want to see it. I want to know what's under that ice. You know, I want to see what, you know, what's there, what's underneath Enceladus, you know, what's it going to be like on Titan. You know, we might not necessarily land on Titan, but we can sure see it. You know, there's just so many other places to see.
Yeah, I bet we'll find microscopic life on every single planetary body in the system. I'm almost certain that that's going to happen.
Yeah, and we're seeing it everywhere now that we know that there's an ocean underneath, you know, the heart in Pluto of Pluto's heart, and with Ceres and everything else. Everything we just keep finding is things like that. So, all right, so go ahead.
My internet is a bit like so.
Yeah, I understand. No, not a problem at all. I mean, everything's been great. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today. But go ahead and drop everybody. What's the website and your social media? Where can everybody find you and kind of see what Ripple's going to be up to in the new year?
Yeah, we have a Facebook page. It's not incredibly active. I mean, as we were very careful in what we share. But we do have a website. It's rippleaerospace.com. No dashes, no nothing. It's just Ripple Aerospace right out. And we're Ripple Aerospace on, and there's contact information on the website, and there's you know, we try to share at least a little bit of the press, but you know,
yeah, got to be secretive. You know what I mean? It's just like keep them guessing until all of a sudden Ripple's everywhere, and that's, you know, nobody knew SpaceX until SpaceX was somebody. You know, now we're all like, oh, I can't wait. All right, Chris, thank you so much. We appreciate your time today, and you know, and kind of giving us a little view behind the curtain. You know, we appreciate it, and we can't wait to see you at the next event. Are you? Is anybody coming to the Space Symposium this year?
Yes, we are. We will have 1 or 2 people there.
Excellent. Well, I will certainly see everybody there because I will be there as well. So we appreciate it, and we will we'll see you soon.
Yeah, very cool.
Thanks, and thank you, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode.